just different.
What love is not. Question. Love is very confusing to me. I think I'm in love and then I find I am not. I had somehow expected love to be more enduring. Can you clarify? Answer. A great deal of illusion surrounds this simple subject. So, in order to answer you fully, we need to discuss what love is and also what love is not. You often hear people say that they are in love, and from their perception, this love is a very strong, deep, abiding means of expression. The word that I think is erroneous here is abiding. If you look very carefully at this wonderful, ongoing love, you will realize it is not truly everlasting. So, as an example, let us look at two people who think they are in love. As they move through their life together, a strange thing begins to happen. One day, they have a severe difference of opinion over an issue vital to them both. What do? There are several ways that they may respond. For instance, if they are intellectual, they may argue in defense of their own position. If they are nice people and don't believe in getting angry, they may express themselves in underhanded, veiled ways. If they tend toward the emotional, they may yell and even scream. These are all forms of resentment and anger, but not love. If you are paying attention, you will find incidents like this happening again and again. Where you are taking to be love is really a movement of attraction, and with attraction comes repulsion. In the world of duality, one cannot exist without the other. If you are not willing to acknowledge this attraction, repulsion, very little can be changed. It is a naive assumption that because you have strong feelings for someone, that feeling is love. But when you are paying attention, it becomes clear that many thoughts pass through your minds that are dark, negative, resentful, and self-centered. My friends, this is the human condition. Accept it. See it for what it is. So let us go into what love is not. Love is not something that goes on and off like a light bulb. It is not something you have one day and the next day you do not. That is not love. That is emotion. I would like you to remove all the glamour about personal love from the mirrors of your mind, because until they are gone and you become aware of your true feelings towards others, you will never know what love really is. And why should it matter what love really is? Because many of you feel you are experiencing love as best you can, and this is simply not so. The best is so far better than what you have thus far accepted that your interpretation of best pales in comparison. I would like to give you some helpful suggestions for breaking down the illusions that keep you from real love. A lover who thinks he or she is totally satisfactory as a lover is not going to see any reason to make changes. But a lover who sees clearly the ways in which he is unloving is one who will be willing to make such changes. The changes can become very dynamically creative. For once you have seen your own unloving nature, you're opening yourself to the possibility of being taught, which is a very important step in this whole process of becoming free of your illusions. And who will teach you? That depends on who you are and what appeals to you. If you are an individualist and do not want outside help, then use yourself to teach yourself. But this can be a difficult path because you may not always be able to distinguish between what is true and what is false, and you can easily sink further into illusion. The most obvious way to find guidance is to look for a temporary authority who has blazed a trail before you. Then relate to it as best as you can in your own way. This leaves many paths open to you. The authority can be a living master, a living guru, or a teacher. But they are not the only ones available. Many wise ones that you believe to be dead have left very obvious trails. All you need to do is connect with the teachings they have left behind. Find out what harmonizes with you, and use him or her to help you discover what this love really is. Again, it does not have to be someone who is still on the earth plane. The illusions of separate bodies is yours, my friend, and that perception is not the highest truth available. Because someone is no longer in a body form does not mean that his or her dynamic, creative wisdom is not available to you. Where would this wisdom go? It is always available in the great sea of consciousness, permeating and extending into all parts of this ever-present moment. Great truth and wisdom never die. They have a momentum within themselves that moves throughout the createdness. So be awake to the fact that if you feel an attraction towards a path or a truth, that truth is still, in your words, written in the ethers. It can still be drawn upon and brought back as a dynamic awareness. If, for example, you decide that the way for you is the way of the Christ, please understand that his wisdom and love are still palpably available to you today. Anywhere along what you call the continuum of time, many of Christ's followers have been able to tap into this truth and keep the momentum going. This is what a loving student does for a beloved teacher. He takes the teachings in, understands and embodies that teaching, and then by his own attention and experiences of it, keeps it alive. In your words, he passes it on. So the student is doing a great service by being the embodiment and fulfillment of that teaching. In moving it out onto the earth plane, a more dynamic and living understanding of the original teaching becomes possible. When you pick your path, become centered on it. And if you will be humble enough to ask that the wisdom come alive in you, things will begin to happen. And they can happen in various ways. You may find unread books that were given to you years ago now have an attraction. Or one that you have already read will come to your attention again, and you will learn from it in new ways. Friends give you things, and you begin to hear new ideas. All this may appear to happen in a very haphazard way, but please give due attention to them. If your thrust towards freedom from illusion is sincere, you will find that the vastness will expedite your way toward it. People will come out of the woodwork that you never dreamt were there. All kinds of seemingly unrelated events will take place. You must be aware that they do not happen simply by chance. You have put out a strong call within your being to say, please help me. Once you align yourself through your yearning, things start to happen. Now, what does all this have to do with love? It has everything to do with it, because love is not something you do or something you can contrive. Love is something that you allow to have its movement through you and around you. Your true nature is divine love. This is not something you are aware of, for you have attached your vision to such a limited meaning of what love is that you are caught up in its unreality. You think love is one body caring for another body, or caring for a few other select bodies around you, but this is nonsense. In a state of love, the one fact you are constantly and utterly aware of is that love is something you are, and you cannot are something. Love is your very essence. It is your very being, and you have no control over it, for it is what you are. It is given in the sense that it has been given to you by the source, by God, and out of it, all things are created. So when you feel yourself to be in a state of love, you will also realize that it is something totally out of your control. When you are in that state, love will be the reality in that moment. The strangest people can appear, and you will feel that upwelling of compassion and understanding that is the hallmark of love. This may come as a surprise because you are so used to making very selective choices about the people that you will or will not love. Yet there are many moments every day when upwellings of compassion and caring do move through you. These are not always large movements directed at other people, but can be small flashes created by ordinary things. They are embedded in the very fabric of daily events. Whether you are aware of them or not, if you turn your attention to these feelings away from your day-to-day altercations and problems, love will seem to grow and fill more of your life. In speaking of love, remember, you cannot do it. You cannot will it. You cannot demand it. What you can do is to be open to it. You can begin to follow a path that you hope will embody it. And as you move more deeply into the understanding of your path, you will become aware of this reality. When the veils of illusion of separation begin to fall, the dynamic power that enters your life is the power you call love. This power is the mysterious movement of the divine source. And as it moves through you and out into the world, it gains its velocity and it is something you can actually observe. You will see love in action. There seems to be very little love in action on the earth plane right now because most of the love that people are aware of is personal love. One of the greatest illusions the ego most enjoys putting before you is the thought, I am a loving human being. Love used in the terms of sexual attraction, friendship, or parental instincts can be a device of the ego to make you feel that every day you are becoming more loving. But how will you know if you are becoming a loving person? It is so simple that it will be painful. You are a loving person if everyone who moves through your mind or passes before your eyes is one with whom you can feel compassion and understanding. Most people feel that they are successful in the world if they are able to make money and be in a state of love with others. These thoughts are part and parcel of the earth plane illusion. At this stage, many of you feel this emotional attraction and you do take it for love. If you are someone who has sublimated your life to another, please look closely at this. If the person you say you love were to begin to say unkind things to you, how long do you think you would still feel beautiful, harmonious love for them? What is usually going on here is a matter of what are you getting out of it. As long as you are getting something you believe you need or you believe you want, even if it isn't positive, you will continue to stay. But if the relationship changes to the extent that it no longer is what you want, then you would say you are falling out of love. Any relationships, my friends, that you can fall into, you can also fall out of. Anything that comes and goes, as do these ego-based feelings of love, is not the real thing. The test as to whether something is representative of the source or is simply another illusion of the ego can be made by holding any of your feelings or thoughts still for a moment and asking, is this feeling always with me, no matter what else is present? If it is not, then understand that it is simply another piece of the rising, falling play of createdness on the earth plane. It has nothing to do with the real createdness of the divine, and therefore does not really need your attention. Again, if you can hold an event in your mind for one moment, you will be able to know whether the thoughts and feelings surrounding it are always there. And if so, then the feeling is truly part of the whole and should be given due reverence. You cannot make yourself love. You cannot will yourself to love because you are already love. But what you can do to get in touch with this state is to will yourself to want to love. This is within the ability of every human being. You can change your view of yourself, your relations with other people, and your relationships to the world by willing yourself to want to feel the loving nature that you really are. If you do not believe this, please give due consideration to the state of love you are now in. Ongoing love does not come and go. It is, and that is the hallmark of its reality. Whatever path you choose to follow at the end of the journey, love will reveal itself. I can only repeat, you already have love moving through you. But if you do not pay attention to it, it doesn't matter whether love is there or not. Unless it is helpful in your life, that love might as well not exist. It is the state of deep, constant love and caring for all things that you seek. Please give all due heart and mind to the need to find that state of love within your own being. It is part of the source and therefore a part of you. The illusion that you are a separate body with a separate mind, somehow separated from the source, is simply not the truth. Take seriously the thought that you are love. You are love, and if you are that, it stands to reason that you can know it. The love of self. Question. We have been told that we are here to learn. If that's true, why does so much of it have to be so painful? Answer. That is a very poignant and insightful question. If it is true that you came to the earth plane to learn, then why does it appear to be so difficult? It is supposed to be a life of spontaneity, wonder, and beauty. Then why does it so often appear other than that? There are moments in your life when you are forced to realize that there is only one thing that you can really count on, and that is yourself. All the external props you use during a lifetime to make yourself feel at ease in the world will eventually fail. Deep, meaningful relationships with others may end, and the chances that you will find yourself alone. If you have children, they grow up. If you have an important position in life, you retire or it is taken from you. If you have beauty, you become old. If you are powerful, you become weak and infirm. Many people come to me and say, I want more than anything to know God. But what they really want to know is how they can rid themselves of all the things they believe God does not approve of. They long to rid themselves of negative emotions such as fear, anger, or jealousy. These so-called negative emotions have been a part of human life since the world of duality first appeared. Tell me, my friends, how do you get rid of something that's a part of you? The first attempt might be to withdraw from all the situations and people that cause anger and never enter into relationships that cause jealousy. And since anger and jealousy make you feel less than who you want to be, you constrict your life to rid yourself of them. In extreme cases, constriction leads to renunciation. And whether you sit in a cave or your house, the desire is to cut off all stimulation that might provoke those reactions you are trying not to feel. But the day will come when you leave the house or come down off the mountain and go to the neighborhood store. Someone pushes into line in front of you and your peaceful interior explodes into anger. When you realize that renunciation is not working, the next attempt is to will yourself not to be angry. Your face becomes a mask. A smile is always there and your jaw is rigid. You have to keep smiling because if you relax, you might cry, you might scream, or do something else inappropriate. You try, by what you call your will, to override the emotions that are moving through you. And this works for a while, until one day an unsettling event occurs, and before your jaw can clench, you respond with the same feelings and the same fears that you're trying to overcome. What have you accomplished? Along with all these maneuvers, you are also playing the wonderful game of manipulation. You attempt to manipulate people in your universe so they will not upset you. For if they are behaving, you will not have to misbehave. If your lover is very clear about not making you jealous, you will not feel jealousy. If you pick a boss who never gets angry, you don't have to deal with your anger. You leave behind the things that are too hard for you to deal with because you don't want to face that part of yourself. You move from one relationship to another, trying to find someone who will be a passive mirror for you, so you do not have to see those negative aspects in yourself. But in the last, it all fails. You are left one day with the understanding that you cannot, on your own, rid yourself of your little demons. And so comes the final brilliant idea. You let God do it for you. Haven't you all tried asking her, begging her, to take this burden from you? Has anything really changed? Then you discover the wonderful game of spiritual awakening, and you begin the long process toward what is called enlightenment. You find a spiritual teacher and read all the right books, do all the right things, chant all the right mantras, and mold yourself into a good person. By the end of this process, you hope to find God and free yourself from your negative side. I would like to use an experience from Mary Margaret's life to illustrate the point I wish to make. As a young girl growing up on a small island in the Pacific, she was exposed to doctrines of many different religions. She wondered how to reconcile the tremendous differences between them. Then one day, from her awareness, arose the conviction that the solution lay in answering the following question. How can a person, alone on an island, with no spiritual books, no friends, no teachers or gurus, nothing but himself or herself, find God? What I have to say today is an answer to the question she presented to herself those many years ago. For in the end, you are one person alone on an island, and all the books you have read and the prayers you have prayed may have very little meaning in the face of your emptiness. To begin with, please accept the fact that your basic persona will probably stay pretty much the same. No matter what you do or what kind of mental gymnastics you might perform, you will probably remain yourself. You are who you are, the end product of billions of experiences. So you begin by acknowledging you are who you are. We have made this statement deep within your being, and you are presented with a negative feeling of jealousy, for example. You can admit that you are trapped. You are trapped because you cannot get away from the feeling that spontaneously arises within you. You are not going to get away because you don't have to. Please hear this. Your life has been based on the supposition that there is something wrong with you if you are feeling jealousy. So you try to fix yourself. I would like to suggest that there is nothing wrong with you, and furthermore, you do not need to be fixed. Your inner tension comes from not loving certain parts of yourself. I'll say again, your inner tension comes from not loving certain parts of yourself. And you don't love them because you have been told not to by people who are also ignoring those parts of themselves that they do not love. Freedom from this conditioning comes from going within and saying with all the power of your being, I love myself in the midst of jealousy. I love myself in the act of anger. I love myself when I feel self-pity. Whatever it may be, in the midst of that feeling, in the midst of that thought, in the midst of that action, your freedom lies in saying, I love myself in this moment, just as it is, just as I am. I can see the fear in some of your minds, that if you love a part of yourself, you would rather not have. You will be stuck with that part for the rest of your life. I would like to give you a larger, clearer view of what really happens when these emotions arise and why acceptance is your way out. The reality is this. Thoughts are in motion around you at all times, moving through you and through all of humanity. They are not your private thoughts. They are the thoughts that are common to all. Because of your individual past experiences, training, and environment, you draw in certain thoughts as they go by. You tend to pull in the same ones all the time, so you go down the same roads over and over again. Thoughts of unworthiness, of fear, of depression, dark, negative thoughts, again and again. Now, here is an important point. When the thought comes in, it translates itself as a feeling inside the physical body. At that moment, a future action is formed. Do you understand the process? The thought is out there. It comes in. It hits your brain. It's recorded as a feeling, and out of that feeling, you formulate a future action. For example, the thought goes by, that person doesn't like me. You draw it to you. Anger is what you feel, and the future action is some form of retaliation or withdrawal. Please remember, you came to the earth plane to experience the full range of emotions and to realize you are the observer of those emotions, not the emotions themselves. As the observer, you can choose your responses to the thoughts you pull in and what actions you bring about in your life. What I am suggesting is that many of the thoughts you pull in are based on the beliefs there is something wrong with you, that you are not lovable, and that you have to do something in order to be loved. I would like to reverse that process by asking you to begin a serious, ongoing commitment to the repetition of a mantra that has probably never occurred to you. I love myself. In an instant, you can go from despondency to happiness. Try it. Think of a happy thought. You will be blissful. Think of a depressing thought. You will move into unhappiness. And there you are, just sitting in your chair. Has anything happened to you? Has anybody hurt you? Has anybody loved you? No, you're simply sitting, and you find that you have the capacity to move from high to low. And all you are doing is changing a thought. If it is true that you can sit quietly and change your mood in a moment, then perhaps it is also true that you can sit quietly and say with understanding, I love myself, and begin to feel something happen inside you. You will begin to feel a warmth. There is a flame, a fire, a chakra that lights up through love. It is all true. By resting in that feeling of love for yourself, you begin to generate a warmth. Try for the next month to give yourself some time every day to simply sit, feel this, and see if what I have to say is true. But you ask yourself, what happens when a negative emotion arises? There you sit, feeling warmth, feeling power, feeling wonderful, and the telephone rings. You pick it up, and someone implies that you are a real jerk. Now a feeling enters that was not there a moment ago. The process is in motion. The thought goes by. You pull it in, and you respond. Maybe it is a heavy or sharp feeling in the body, so you want to get rid of it. Your mind starts the process of trying to get out from under that heavy feeling, but whatever you try and end doesn't work. This is what will work. The moment you sense that painful feeling, say to yourself, I welcome this feeling. I welcome you. You don't have to go anywhere or change. You are a part of me, and I welcome you. The warmth that you have created through loving yourself moves into this hard feeling and begins to smooth it, surround it, and make it porous. Out of the power of your acceptance of it, it becomes filled with your love. Love pours through this unlovely feeling mass, surrounds it, uplifts it, and it becomes lovely. Through this process, you find you are capable of holding two things, your love and that agony. Your love is so vast that there is nothing it cannot hold. And using that vastness is what you've got to learn to do. You can have all the grief, all the illness, all the sorrow, regrets, and guilt, and there is no need to worry because the love in your heart is so vast it can hold everything. These emotions are your children. All they want is your love. You have created them, and then you have treated them like unwanted children. But you created them. When you warm these emotions through your love of them, through your acceptance of them, then the words transmutation and transformation become real. Once you decide that you are so vast that you can hold anything, you will become fearless because you have learned that there is nothing the world can show you that you cannot hold in your heart with love. There is no grief so great, no event so horrible, no fear so traumatic that you cannot hold it, warm it, open to it, and love it. Organized religion would have you say that your job is to love your neighbor, but often they forget to add the part that goes as yourself. There's not one of you who does not basically want to love others. Only fear prevents this from happening. So when you are presented with, for example, the dilemma of having been hurt by someone and you want to love them, but you cannot because of the ache you feel, you go through a lot of trying to love. And this is honorable. But again, the problem is it doesn't work. And the reason it does not work is because you're asking yourself to do the impossible, which is to give something to someone that you desperately need and want for yourself. You want love. And you are asking yourself to give it to someone who your thoughts tell you doesn't love you. I would like to suggest another point of view. Love yourself for not loving them. Love yourself for not even liking them. Understand, I'm not talking about a mental process. I'm talking about an experiential feeling, and there is not one of you that cannot feel the warmth in the heart I am talking about. When you start to love yourself for not being loving, or even for disliking someone, a wonderful alchemy begins. The entire situation takes on a warmth, and you are no longer in a position of feeling badly because you cannot love. When you finally understand, you can discover that which you have been desperately looking for outside of yourself. You become the master of your life. You have been looking for love, security, and peace in the wrong places. And the minute you find them inside yourself, you are the master, not of others, but of yourself. Not in the arrogant sense, but with a sense of wonder. Then you are in a position to love someone else and not before. Because until that moment, you are begging someone else for something, no matter how subtle you make it. What you are begging for is love, and if you don't get it, you're hurt, you're sad, you're lost, you're unloved, you're despondent. When you awaken to the knowing that you have the power to kindle love within you, you experience love in motion. You can feel it no matter who is before you because the love is not personalized. The dog goes by, the child goes by, the stranger goes by, the enemy goes by, and it is all the same. It is frightening to think of loving the enemy as much as yourself, but when you become love in motion, you are free. When you have done for yourself what you have begged, pleaded, bartered, and manipulated the world to do for you, the game is over because you are now love in action. Everything you do comes from a state of abundance. This does not mean that you don't want to be with people, but it does mean you do not need to be with people. There is a difference. Out of the center of wonder of your own being, you can be with others in a totally committed way, but not out of need, out of joy, out of choice, not out of desperation. At the beginning of this process, there will arise a long list of things you have judged as unlovable about yourself. I would love myself if I didn't drink so much, or if I didn't have a bad temper, or if I wasn't so fat, or so skinny. You have a long internal list of judgments you may not even have thought about. I suggest that you actually sit down and write out your list. Get it out of your unconscious and into the present. And then, no matter how long it takes, reverse it. I love myself while I am angry. I'm talking about the willingness to love all the unwanted parts of yourself. Religion would tell you that you have sins you must overcome. But what you call sins make up some of the wonderful substance of your creation, of who you are, and of who you have been. They are a part of you. It is my experience that when you love your emotions, you love all those parts of yourself that have been labeled sinful. You are going to be at this process until the day you die. And why not? Every day something new is born. You are a creative, dynamic, exploding wonder. And you are going to change every day. New parts of your being are going to come forward daily. And every new experience will show you a new face. You are going to find out things about yourself that you never dreamt were there. Some fears, some courageous powers, some humor, some laughter, some tears, some anger. It's all there in a beautiful, ever-changing pattern, and that is the wonder of it. If you stop trying to freeze the pattern into a perfect, completed form, you can enjoy the movement of all that arises. You are trying to freeze yourself into a perfect form based on an unreal idea of who Christ was, of who Buddha was, of who you think God wants you to be. You have even tried to freeze God into some form, and I tell you, she is smarter than that. It means to be ever moving, ever changing, ever evolving, ever extending, ever wondrously different, and mysteriously always, in all ways, the same. What a paradox. Do you really think God wants to sit around getting bored with herself ad infinitum? What kind of God would create all this to have it always the same? The power that spawned you in the beginning was and is brilliant. You didn't create yourself, but you are surely a part of it. Because you have believed that unless you are perfect, you cannot have God's love. You believe that you are not capable of love. That is a lie. Some of you even believe if you have sexual relations before you are married, God will not love you. You have believed this message, but not enough to not do it, just enough to feel guilty about it. Your nature is such that it wants to experience whatever is there to experience. And these beliefs about what you should and should not experience place you in a paradoxical position. The drama is set from the moment life begins. And the basic difficulty becomes from believing the lie that God loves only those who are good. Just as every child is part of the parent, so are you a part of the source. There is no way to escape it. That source is within you. When you say, I love myself, you can feel a response because there is an essence, a power, a substance, a light in your physical body, waiting to be kindled. Each time you say, I love myself, and you are willing to feel that love, you are turning up the power, fanning the flame, expanding the light. You do not have to go out and find the substance of love because it is what you are, closer than any idea, any thought, any action. By turning your attention towards self love, you ignite the power of your love. There is no more or less love in any one of you than there is in any other. You are love itself, now and always. Let's talk about this in terms of something simple, like soup. You all have a bowl of soup in you. In the Christ or the Buddha's case, it was an ignited, powerful, moving ambrosia. It had a wonderful aroma, and they felt it because it was the fire that warmed them. It motivated their lives and gave them a strong sense of aliveness. Your problem is that your soup is cold, and that is not a very large problem. Once you understand that your job is simply to turn up the fire, you will be your own teacher because you know exactly how to turn up your own fire. You know the things that make you feel alive. You know the things that make your life feel worthwhile. The things that make you want to jump out of bed in the morning and go about your business. And you also know the things that make you want to stay in bed and pull the covers over your head. So for God's sake, and I mean that literally, do the things you want to do, things that ignite your life, give you power and a feeling of inner warmth. Stop doing the things that deaden you. The power within you that moves at your willingness to love and embrace your unwanted children is the love of God. Do not forget, you are that. You have always been that. You have never been any other thing other than a part of God, ever. And that divinity, that everlasting divinity, is always there. When you allow it to embrace your suffering and fear, it does. It will hold them in an embrace of total acceptance. And in that embrace, you will not be in agony anymore. Do you think that the Christ never felt sorrow? Do you think that Buddha never ached? You're not going to be less human. You're going to be wholly human. Because in your wholeness, you will know that those emotions are there, but they are not all that is there. And the amazing otherness of you as mother and father of those children, you embrace them, you hold them, you love them. And in that love, you are one with them. You become one with yourself through your love for yourself and all of the parts of you. There is no other way home because you are home, and the wholeness of you is waiting to be noticed. You are all of it, so please stop pretending to be less. It won't work.